here with reaction. She is the co-host of the top hit show, The Five. Judge Jeanine Pirro is with us, along with Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce. Judge, let's start with you, only from the legal aspect of this. Like, I would not doubt, I can't give specifics, but I'm pretty confident that New York State, the only reason that Wall Street companies remain is because they probably get benefits, tax benefits, let's say favors that people like we would never get. For Disney to have these special rights since 1967, I say, okay, time to go. Why shouldn't they be treated equally?
Well, they should be treated equally. And the truth is this permit that has existed since 1967 can be revoked by the governor. And, then Disney will not have all of those rights that you articulated. But, you have to ask yourself the fundamental question here. Who the heck are these corporate executives from Disney to criticize a law that was voted on by the legislature in Florida, signed by the governor, and supported by more than 50% of the Democrats in Florida and the majority of Floridians? Who is this small majority of woke people who decide that they're going to dictate what we're going to do? And I love that Ron DeSantis doesn't buckle down to their nonsense. And I love that what he's saying is he's standing there at that podium and he's saying, don't mess with us because we can mess with you. And we can mess with you legitimately. We don't have to make up a narrative. Now, let me tell you something, Sean. I have 2 kids. And if anybody tried to talk to my 5-year-old or 6-year-old about whether or not they really wanted to be a boy or a girl or sexual orientation, the first thing I would do is I would call the police. There should be no teacher talking to my kid about sex. And I would then call Child Protective Services to talk about teachers and their influence over our children. None of them should be discussing this with our kids. Now we've got parents who have the right to protect and know what's going on in school. And finally, Joe Biden's got his administration is imploding, as you said at the beginning of your opening. He now wants to make sure he stays on top of the Florida law to make sure that they're monitoring it so children's civil rights are not being violated. That guy there. And he supports funding surgery for minors so that they can change sexes. And he's talking about the bottom surgeries. And bottom line here is this. Nobody says you can't say gay, and Wanda Sykes and the rest of them ought to read the bill before they open their traps and go gay, 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 gay. And that's it.
Way, and Tammy, you sound like Levin. I'm done. That's it. Very funny. So we watched Glenn Youngkin, Commonwealth of Virginia. These education issues and parental involvement in schools was a very key issue that I believe factored into him winning the state, a purple state like the Commonwealth of Virginia. When you look at this law and you look at the reaction to all of this, and it's only for K through 3rd grade, and I would like schools to focus on reading, writing, math, science, and computers because we pay more per capita than any other country and we have the worst results. Is that unreasonable to have parental involvement? And maybe those are issues they can deal with in after-school programs if parents are uncomfortable talking to their kids about these kinds of issues and they can opt in rather than opt out?
Well, you crazy wild guy, Sean Hannity, that parents should have control over their children, be their moral arbiters, that they're the natural and legal moral arbiters of their children. They are the people who obviously have a legal right to control the lives of toddlers, their little children, of their family. The reality is you're right. These are marginal extremists. The judge is right as well regarding this is a small minority of people. They are extremists. They've been placed in particularly influential positions. They are the loudest voices in the room. They are bullies. They're bullying everyone else. Chapek and everybody else who's at the top are afraid. They have a knee-jerk reaction. Nobody read the bill. And they don't think about, they're in a bubble, Sean. They don't think about not just Virginia, but my goodness, San Francisco and the recall of 3 school board members for exactly the same reason. woke policies, changing school names, critical race theory, sexual instruction, wokeism for young ages when it comes to homosexuality, sexual identity. Little kids, I've said it before, I'll say it again. There are no straight children. There are no gay children. There's just children. They are beyond that. And ultimately, and this was well put by someone on Twitter, that this is a horrible dynamic and a heartbreaking dynamic of adults destroying the innocence of childhood to validate themselves. This is why every parent, every American must stand up against it.
It's like keep politics out of football, keep politics out of Disney. Let kids enjoy their childhood.
Let kids
you know
be
what?
kids. Let us enjoy kids.
Yeah, all right. Good to see you both. Thank you on this Friday night. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.